Imagine being one of the most talented basketball players of your generation, yet held back by something invisible. Fear. Not fear of competition or failure, but a psychological barrier that makes stepping onto the court nearly impossible. Mental strength is just as important as physical ability in sports. The greatest athletes aren't just those who run faster or jump higher, but those who can overcome the pressures, anxieties, and fears that come with the game. But what happens when that fear is so overwhelming that it derails a promising career before it even begins? Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Royce White, an elite-level talent whose career was nearly destroyed by something few people talk about in sports: fear of flying. His battle wasn't just against opponents on the court, but against his own mind. And in the process, he challenged the entire NBA system. Basketball is often seen as a game of skill, strength, and strategy. But beneath the highlight reels and game-winning shots lies an invisible battle: the mental game. In the NBA, where the pressure is relentless and the expectations are sky-high, the difference between success and failure often comes down to mental resilience. Many fans assume that professional athletes are immune to fear, but the truth is, even the best struggle with deep-seated anxieties. The fear of failure, performance anxiety, and even specific phobias can impact their careers in ways most people never realize. Some players struggle with depression and panic attacks. Others battle obsessive thoughts before every game. And for Royce White, his greatest opponent wasn't another player. It was his own fear of flying. This isn't just a rare case. There have been NBA players with crippling anxiety, sleep disorders, and personal struggles that affected their ability to perform. From Kevin Love opening up about panic attacks to DeMar DeRozan discussing his battle with depression, the conversation about mental health in sports has only recently started gaining attention. But back in 2012, when Royce White entered the NBA, things were very different. The league wasn't ready to accommodate a player with a severe anxiety disorder, and instead of being seen as a revolutionary figure in sports psychology, White was labeled a problem. His story isn't just about basketball. It's about the challenges of mental health in a world that still struggles to understand it. Royce White wasn't just another prospect entering the NBA. He was special. A dominant forward with the size of a power player and the ball-handling skills of a guard, White was a nightmare matchup for any defender. At Iowa State, he showcased an all-around game that had scouts buzzing. His ability to score, rebound, and facilitate made him one of the most intriguing players in the 2012 NBA draft. But there was something most teams didn't know. White had been battling generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, for years. While some players worried about their shooting percentages or defensive assignments, White faced a different kind of fear: the fear of flying. And in the NBA, where constant travel is part of the job, this wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was a career-threatening issue. Despite this, the Houston Rockets took a chance on him, selecting him 16th overall in the first round. White had the talent to become a franchise player. But almost immediately, problems arose. He expressed concerns about the team's willingness to accommodate his anxiety disorder, requesting access to mental health professionals and alternative travel arrangements. But instead of receiving support, White found himself at odds with the organization. The Rockets didn't know how to handle his situation, and the league itself was unprepared to address mental health concerns in a serious way. Frustration grew on both sides, and White was soon assigned to the G League. His NBA career, one that should have been filled with highlight plays and all-star appearances, quickly faded before it had a real chance to begin. As his playing time diminished, so did his relationship with the NBA. He was vocal about the league's failure to support players dealing with mental health struggles, calling out the system for prioritizing profits over well-being. Instead of backing down, he became an advocate. pushing for policies that would protect future athletes facing similar battles. But in the cutthroat world of professional basketball, speaking out came with a cost. Royce White, once seen as a rising star, was now viewed as a problem, someone unwilling to conform to the demands of the league. His battle wasn't just against his anxiety, it was against an entire system that wasn't ready to change. Royce White refused to let his anxiety disorder define him. While the NBA may not have been ready to accommodate his needs, he was determined to find solutions, both for himself and for other athletes facing similar struggles. One of the first steps White took was advocating for mental health resources within professional sports. He pushed for the NBA to recognize anxiety as a legitimate medical condition, just like any physical injury. His argument was simple. If a sprained ankle requires treatment and accommodation, why shouldn't a mental health condition receive the same level of care? White also explored alternative travel methods to minimize his anxiety. He requested to travel by bus whenever possible instead of flying with the team. While some saw this as an unreasonable demand, other athletes, like former MLB player Zach Greinke, had received similar accommodations in different sports. The problem wasn't the request itself, but the league's unwillingness to adapt. Beyond logistics, White worked on personal strategies to manage his anxiety. He practiced meditation and breathing techniques to calm his mind before high-pressure situations. He studied cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, methods, learning how to challenge intrusive thoughts and regain control. He even sought mentorship from mental health professionals, hoping to build the resilience needed to navigate a high-stakes sports environment. But perhaps White's most impactful decision was using his voice. Instead of suffering in silence, he became an outspoken advocate, raising awareness about mental health in professional sports. He openly challenged the NBA's approach, calling for systemic change. His actions weren't just about his own career. They were about paving the way for future athletes. At the time, his stance was controversial. But today, players like Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan have continued the conversation, proving that mental health in sports is an issue too important to ignore. In many ways, Royce White didn't just fight his own fears. He fought to change the entire sports industry's perspective on mental well-being. Royce White's journey is not just a story about basketball. It's about all of us, about how we deal with challenges that seem insurmountable. Whether it's a fear that holds us back, a mental block that stops us from reaching our goals, or the pressure we feel to conform to society's expectations, his story mirrors the struggles many of us face in our own lives. We often see athletes as larger-than-life figures who seem to handle anything that comes their way. But the truth is, they're human. They face the same fears, doubts, and anxieties that we do. What sets them apart isn't the lack of fear, it's how they manage it. And this is where Royce White's experience can be truly enlightening. Think about a time in your life when fear or doubt held you back. It could have been in your career, in relationships, or pursuing a personal dream. The thing about fear is that it thrives on silence. When we don't talk about it, when we don't confront it head-on, it grows stronger. White's story shows us the power of facing those fears and having the courage to speak out. Whether it's in sports or in life, overcoming challenges is about more than just willpower. It's about strategy, support, and understanding. Just like White worked with professionals and used techniques like meditation, we all have tools at our disposal to tackle the mental obstacles that stand in our way. Royce White's courage to speak up can inspire us all to face our own fears and break free from the limitations that hold us back. The truth is, the greatest champions aren't those who've never been afraid. They're the ones who've learned to face their fears and push through them. Royce White's story is a powerful reminder that courage doesn't come from a lack of fear, but from learning how to navigate it. So, what's your fear holding you back from achieving? Whether it's a challenge at work or something personal, Take a page from White's book and face it head-on. If you've been inspired by his story, share your own experience in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories of resilience.